thanks for joining me. So, I know it's been a while since you've seen my face, long enough that I've grown out my hair long enough to tie it back again. Those of you that miss my tied back hairstyle will appreciate that. Today I want to do a video response to xcornmuffinx's video about his top 20 movies, I think it was, of all time. This was a video response to the Happy Console Gamer, who I also watch, and I also watched his video, which I really liked. But, I don't know Happy Console Gamer in particular. I mean, I watch his videos and I comment on them once in a while, and we haven't had much for interaction, but of course, xcornmuffin and I have, and in particular, hearing his list really made me want to kind of go through and think, well, what are my favorite top 20 movies? And because I think there's like a little bit of overlap there at least, and I really enjoyed hearing both of the lists. And I also want to really thank my my patrons from Patreon, because I put a question out there because I wasn't really sure if I actually wanted to do this particular video response or talk about movies a little bit differently, and this was the one that was recommended. So so thank you very much for weighing in on that. I'm glad that you guys wanted to hear this. So most of these videos or movies I own, but this first one is actually one that I don't. But I have a really close personal connection to this. It's The Black Hole. Now, this is a Disney live-action movie from, I want to say, the late 70s, possibly the very early 80s. And it's possibly one of my very earliest memories of anything. And it might have actually been the television advertising, but I really remember that scene, if you've seen the movie, of an asteroid, like a meteor, kind of. They basically make it look like this big fireball. It's really cool looking and very iconic from the film. But what I love about this movie, it's something that I enjoyed as a kid. I revisited it as a teenager and in my 20s. It's so creepy and it's so ambiguous, and it just has this wonderful atmosphere to it, and a lot of elements that I really enjoy. It's not really a feel-good movie. It's pretty dark, especially like for a Disney movie. It was very unconventional. It also has like some very early CG that was actually like kind of groundbreaking at the time. It was just a wireframe of the black hole, but you had never seen anything like that before. And the story, basically, there are these researchers like out in space on a research vessel, but they stumble across this other research vessel that they had lost contact with, thought had disappeared, and so they end up kind of wanting to, and I think having to, board it. And of course, it's not very deep. You can kind of see where it's going just from the description. Things aren't really, as they seem, and it's visually interesting, and it's also like I had a storybook of this when I was a kid. My mom actually audio recorded herself reading the book to me, and it had all stills from the movie. I would flip through the book, and I would listen to my mom read the story to me, and like it kind of was one of those things that helped me learn to read to a certain extent, before I could really do that for myself. So, one of those things that's kind of like very close to me personally, and I think, shares some things in common with other movies I think that you'll see on this list. Next up, we have 300. Now, when I first saw this movie, I don't know that this would have necessarily been on the list, but I've picked it up and I've watched it, multiple times since then, and this is just so good. I guess even at the time, I really was blown away by this, just because it so well captures the comic book. Now, I didn't read the comic book beforehand. I have, read some of Frank Miller's stuff. I thought Frank Miller, to a certain extent, is a kind of a native of my state, actually. And when I was a teenager, my best friend and I were really into, one of my best friends, I guess, and I were really into comics, and we were into some of Frank Miller's things. So anyway, this movie though it's one of those movies that I can just put on, I can have it on in the background and pretty much just watch it whenever, and it's good. It's not 100% realistic. I love how it has that little bit of that, still like that comic booky, like fantasy quality to it. But it also has some elements, I think, of movies that I really enjoy. Like it doesn't have a really happy ending. It's it's really a story of revenge and kind of like standing up against it's kind of impossible odds for kind of for justice, for ideals, and something that's more important. Well, I mean, even than your life. You'll see that also. Like there's really a handful of themes in the movies that I really enjoy, but this is a wonderful movie. The sequel to this I thought was excellent as well. I'd really like to grab that on Blu-ray. So 300 is my 19th movie, I guess, in this list here. So next up, another one I don't own, but this was such a kind of powerful, like really visceral experience when I first experienced it. One of my friends introduced me to it, and that is Battle Royale. This is a Japanese movie, but it stars Beat Takeshi, who's a famous actor, director, comedian in Japan, and it's about a very interesting premise. Basically, kind of a dystopian future scenario where Japan, basically as a country, every year they basically take one class of more or less delinquents. Just students that aren't really they aren't really excelling. They're not really fitting in with society, even just at that level in high school, and they throw them on an island and they just have them fight to the death. Now, this is fairly similar to the Hunger Games. People have credited or basically accused the Hunger Games of, in some ways ripping off major themes from Battle Royale. Suffice to say, Battle Royale was a novel, and it came first, for what that's worth. But it's a really, like I said, it's this horrendously visceral experience where you just you really get wrapped up in this idea of what if you threw kids on an island and told them to kill it? I mean, nobody would do that, but then you sort of see the cracks appear right away to a certain extent, where it's like, okay, well, they all have to wear these collars that will explode. The people running this could kill them at any time. There are certain zones. The island is split up into these zones, and the students have to move from one place to another, so they can't just hide in one place forever. And so they put all of these pressures on them, and everybody gets a bag with something in it, and it could be something really useful, it could be something really not. So it's a lot of it is weapons. I mean, it could be things that are more strategic or defensive, tactical, and you follow through this group of students. And I could be wrong about this. I feel like I remember reading that in a way it was kind of a response of the author to again, the World War II had such an impact on so many creators in Japan, a whole generation of them. And I think it was sort of his way of dealing with maybe friends that he lost, or it might have been more of a what if. I kind of forget if this he really maybe his class really did get bombed or something like that, or if it was more of a a thought experiment a little bit. But sort of what if his high school class kind of had this opportunity to kind of allow their deaths to play out, and kind of how how that would happen, and it's very fascinating to watch it. It's hard to watch. It's cathartic to watch. It's exhilarating. You know, it's a very very interesting movie with a very simple premise. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't seen it. It's number whatever 17 in my list here. Next up, something I do have, and I am including animated movies on here. Now, with the caveat that I'm not putting any Ghibli movies in here because they're so good and they probably take up a bunch of spots. A Wind Named Amnesia. I've mentioned this before, from the director of Ninja Scroll. This is just such a cool movie. It's post-apocalyptic, and you know, I don't want to give too much away about this. I'm assuming that most people haven't seen this movie. It's a little bit obscure, but you know, as far as I know, this was a theatrical movie, and it's so well put together. It's slow paced. You know, it's not like all in your face, but it's about this. Think something along the lines of like Stephen King's The Stand, where like people, you know, in The Stand it was a virus, I think, that wiped out a whole bunch of humanity. In this, it's like something similar, but instead of just killing everybody, it like makes everybody lose their memory. So it's kind of this examination of like kind of like what is evolution, like what makes people human, and you know, so kind of like, I don't know, what do we have left if we sort of like strip everything away and start over again? And there's a very small handful of people that don't lose their memories for one reason or another. But it's really really well done. I have animation cells from this movie. That's how much I you know, I like this, kind of how vested I am in this, and it's really good. If you guys like post-apocalyptic science fiction, I would, you know, that isn't necessarily like Mad Max, like running around bashing people's heads in. Highly, highly recommend that movie. Next up, something else I don't have. We're going into David Cronenberg territory. Now, if I remember correctly, I think Cornmuffin picked Videodrome, which is a really good movie, and I've seen it. But I'm going to pick Naked Lunch. Now, Naked Lunch is, gosh, it's sort of loosely based around, I guess, like a kind of a couple of short stories by William Burroughs, and he was kind of like a beatnik poet and author, and gosh, man, I mean, he was in a Ministry video, like just one fix, like I actually am not sure if he's still alive or not. He was in the 90s anyway. But very interesting author. I was never really into him that much. One of my friends was more, and he introduced me to this movie, and it's a very odd. It's very interesting. There's a lot of that David Cronenberg like kind of body horror, like a lot of, you know, things transforming into like weird grotesque stuff, like weird grotesque monsters, and but a lot of it is kind of like you're kind of spending most of the movie like wondering what's happening in the head of the author, who is the main character, and like what of it is real. And there's a lot of stuff that I think William Burroughs like wrote about, which is sort of like homosexuality and like drug use and drug abuse. So like those are really big themes in the movie, and it's just like it's so fascinating. Like the special effects are so good, the the acting is so good. Like the actors are really good, the cast is good, and it's just odd. It's such a weird movie, that I think like you can just watch it over and over again, and it just you're gonna think about stuff every time you watch it, and you're gonna get to the end and you wonder like, one, what did I watch? Two, like what did that mean? You know, and you're gonna want to go back and watch it again. I guess if it sort of captured your imagination and was interesting to you, it's a very interesting movie. I really should pick it up at some point, just so I have it around. But it's a very interesting movie, and like easily comes in whatever we have here, 15 on my list here. So next up, a movie that I have talked about pretty recently is Cyborg. I couldn't not put this movie on this list. And it's funny, I have Bloodsport, and by all accounts, Bloodsport, I would say objectively is the better movie. It's great, but I just love Cyborg. I watched this movie a ton when I was a kid. Obviously, I liked it enough to pick it up again. With the bonus of having Death Warrant double impact on it. But yeah, like I said, I've talked about it before. It's this revenge story, and it's just a great revenge story. I mean, I think Kickboxer is kind of in some ways a revenge story too, but like this, it just has that really classic post-apocalyptic thing again, which is really cool. Again, like kind of science fiction. You've got this cyborg, and but like man's whole family gets killed, like Mad Max style for the most part, and he goes out for revenge. And of course, it's like martial arts too, with just some sort of like great post-apocalyptic like gunplay and martial arts and stuff. It's such a fun movie. Just personally, I really like this movie, and it ends up on my list of top 20 movies ever. If you guys haven't seen it, you want to see a cool martial arts Van Damme movie that's like, a little rough around the edges, but a lot of fun. That's your ticket. Oh, speaking of martial arts movies that are a lot of fun, Deadfire Melody. This is the next one on my list. Now, I went through a period, I guess it would be, and it's probably a period a lot of other people went through at the time, because Hong Kong movies were pretty popular for a little while, like in the 90s, I would say. And Deadfire Melody, I feel like this is just like the one that has risen to the top for me and just kind of stayed there. I do have stuff like, Once Upon a Time in China, which again, objectively, like, is probably a better movie. This is like a trilogy. I've definitely seen 1 and 2 a lot. I'm not sure that I saw 3 a whole bunch, but they're great movies. But I like something that's a little more imaginative, that's a little less like it's a little more fantasy, and like this really fits that bill. I basically the story behind it is there's like this harp or something. I think they called it a lyre, and it's like this martial arts weapon, basically. Like somebody like develops this whole martial art around playing this, using the sound waves or something like that to murder people, and the whole kind of martial arts world. And you have all these people that have like they're such good martial artists. They've sort of like they're kind of raised to almost like this demigod status. In here, and they basically they decide like this dude cannot have this thing. He's too powerful. He's stronger than all of us. Let's all gang up. We'll kill him. We'll take this thing and we'll get rid of it. So basically they end up doing this. And another revenge story here. This little girl is left from this massacre, and she grows up to get her revenge. But the story kind of follows around like this other martial artist who is he's hired to transport this weapon somewhere. I don't even really know like what the whole why like the setup is for it, but anyway, it's sort of what makes this movie the movie, because of course along the way people want to get this ultimate weapon, so to speak, and he does a lot of cool martial arts, and the people with him do a lot of cool martial arts, and all of the martial arts masters get together, and there's this awesome freaking like kind of fantasy martial arts battle at the end, and it's super great. Like I said, other stuff like The Bride with White Hair and the Swordsman series, I think it's called. Swordsman 1 and 2 are really good. I almost want to say like this might be the dude from The Swordsman, but he might not. I don't know that it's the same guy. But everything in here is awesome. This has Bridget Lynn, who was in the Bride with White Hair, in it. Those are all good movies, but this one goes in my top 20. Really, really cool martial arts. If you haven't seen this one, if you like Hong Kong movies, awesome. Next up, The Hidden. This is also one that I don't own, but I'm really trying to get it. So when I first discovered Netflix, all I really wanted to do was go back and watch 80s movies that I missed when I was a kid. Again, sort of looking for these sci-fi, post-apocalyptic and cyberpunk movies to like see what I missed, and I ended up like finding some pretty cool stuff. The cream of the crop was, for me, was easily The Hidden. This is such a cool movie, like an 80s movie that I'm sure I would have loved to death when I was younger, and I love it to death now. Basically, there's this one alien that's like a bad alien, and there's like a good alien that's come down to Earth to try to capture it. There are other movies, even just from that decade, that revolve around that like exact same premise. But what's great about this movie is just the execution of it is so good, because like the quote unquote bad alien is so hysterical. It infects like people, so it's parasitic onto like human beings, and all it really wants to do is just like be a jerk. It like the movie opens basically with a scene of it like driving around like blaring heavy metal music and just like running into people, and like it's just, the whole like you get to spend all of this time with this weird alien parasite that it's kind of just out to have fun and like cause havoc, and like the way they do it, it's not like, it's almost like the slapstick of the Evil Dead movies to a certain extent. It's not quite that slapsticky, but it still just has that like kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. Like however they execute this, it's amazing. They do it so well, and it's a really fun movie. Out of like dozens and dozens of movies that I sort of poured through and just was looking for things that really stood out from that time period. The Hidden is very, very great. Next up, we have another really good science fiction movie from the late 70s, I believe, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's one of my dad's favorite movies ever, and it's something I've watched countless times when I was younger. And again, it shares a lot of things in common with a lot of these movies that I like. It's again this very kind of like slow-paced, sort of understated, but very interesting science fiction. Like a lot of very like not feel good. You have that whole situation with the space station and the AI that kind of like slowly is becoming like something like more and more sinister. And I also just sort of love the fact that it kind of brings in these sort of like maybe metaphysical, maybe sort of supernatural, maybe spiritual elements, where it's like what sort of what does human evolution mean, and like how do we interact with like the universe on the whole, and sort of like is there other life out there, is there other consciousness, like what would it be like, would it be very different from us, and I think you have these weird elements interacting where you're kind of like what is the next step of humanity? Is it the artificial intelligence that is present in the movie? Is it the people that are present in the movie? We're reaching out into space here for some of the kind of taking these baby steps, and it's a wonderful movie. Stanley Kubrick was a fantastic director, and a lot of his movies are very good. But I think 2001: A Space Odyssey has to make whatever we're up to here the 11th spot here. Next up, I feel like this is kind of a little bit self-indulgent, but The Mask. Um, you, this is actually beating out 2001: A Space Odyssey, and that is just because I love this movie so much. You can see here, my old DVD copy from like, they haven't put DVDs in cases like this in decades here. This is an old DVD. It's got the standard version and the widescreen version on separate sides of the DVD, if you remember when they would do that. So good. I love this movie. I loved this movie when I was a teenager. And, it's so funny. This is, I guess, one of the few, like, kind of funny feel-good movies that I have on here. But just the whole situation with, like, Stanley Ipkiss being this kind of, like, lovable, like, loser, and him having this like completely like fantasy romance with oh god, what's her name? Cameron Diaz in one of like her first roles ever, and wonderful CG effects too for the time. This movie I think really holds up. I kind of like, now that I've put it on my list, I really want to rewatch it again. I've watched it millions of times. But just everything, like I feel like they don't make movies like this anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's there's just like so much camp, like so many memorable scenes. Like Milo the dog is awesome. Like Jim Carrey's amazing in this. I mean, one of his first like big breakout roles too, and it's just wonderful. Like it's a wonderful movie that, I mean, even it's PG-13. Like it's a little racy, but like it's, you can almost call it like a family movie, but again, it has a great sense of humor. I love The Mask, so I think that's number 10 on my list if I'm counting correctly. Next up, this is one that wouldn't have necessarily been on my list, a decade ago or two, but it is now, without a doubt. Die Hard. I just talked about this pretty recently because I picked this up, but this is nearly a perfect movie. Like, it almost should be a little higher on this, except there are things that I just like better, but like it's so well made. Whenever I go back and watch this, and really it's my sort of embarrassing, and maybe even a little cliched, because I think some other people have mentioned this too, but like my family and I watch this every Christmas, because it happens around Christmas and because it's such a good movie. It's not a Christmas movie, but I mean, we get away with watching it because it's fun. And like over the years, I've just come to appreciate how well made the movie is. There's no dull moments. There's no downtime. Like, they do such a great job of crafting this tense, action-packed, like just great action movie out of like these people trapped by terrorists in a building. Again, they haven't made a movie like this since this movie. It's amazing. I'm sure you guys have seen Die Hard. If you haven't, what are you doing with your life? Next up, this is a movie that, gosh, I think I know why I got this movie. I am one of those people that likes The Shawshank Redemption more than like The Godfather. Isn't that sort of like the big contest between like best movies of all time? But Frank Darabont, I think, is responsible for like most of what is really amazing that I've seen out of Stephen King's kind of like short story work, which is basically The Shawshank Redemption and The Mist. Again, like pretty much everything that I like out of most of the movies that I've talked about is in here. Really dark, really kind of like apocalyptic. I'm not gonna say post-apocalyptic because it's not. That's one of the things I really like about this is when things are breaking down. You're just in this town, which it's New England. Stephen King is from New England, and you have this mist roll in, and but it's sort of like people know something's wrong. Like something's really, really not good. So everybody kind of hunkers down, and like you get this pressure cooker of these people sort of trapped in this like completely unbelievable situation, essentially like surrounded by like monsters in the mist, and it's just such a wonderful